Kia ora and welcome to Cinema in Context, where we discuss all things film and the connections between. My name is Jeremy Downing.
I'm Sarah Watt.
And I'm William Chen.
And each month at Cinema in Context, we discuss two films, one current and one retrospective, with some connection. It could be the same director, the same actor, or a similar theme. Well, this month, dear listeners, happens to be our 100th episode. That means we've been recording this episode and releasing it for 100 months, because we do this monthly, which I think it's fair to say doesn't feel like 100th.
It doesn't. It feels much longer. No, it does. But may I say, listeners, readers, watchers, to Jeremy's credit, he is a hard taskmaster, and he never, ever, ever has let us skip a month. And even if William and I have said, we're busy, or we're going to be out of the country, Jeremy Blimmin finds a solution. And I commend you for that, Jeremy, because, you know, I've been known to dabble in other podcasts in my time, and I will start with a roar and then a very rapid will happen, and I feel sad about that. So it's I love being part of something that is so committed, and to have got through 100 months with you guys is extraordinary. Admittedly, I've taken a little bit of time off every now and then, but
And a lot of stuff has happened in these 100 months since 2016.
Yes.
A lot has happened. I mean, so our first episode, we had to kind of go back in the archives and figure out when we did things. So April 2016 was our first episode.
I'd been married 3 months, and I've got to be honest with you fellas, I've never said this. Over the years that we've been friends since then, I've thought, good Lord, why were Jeremy and William not at my wedding? And it was simply because I got married in the January and we weren't yet bonded as the pals we are now. And so if I marry again, or indeed renew my vows to my current husband, you guys are invited, because you've clearly become very, very significant people in my life. But I've honestly often thought, how weird. Why were they not there? And that'll be why. So April 2016, it all began.
And I think we would be perfectly placed to appreciate many of the cameos, tidbits, and fun references in your wedding. You've showed us videos and photos and talked about...
we got married in a cinema.
Yeah.
Doug cut a reel of the most romantic moments from our favourite films that played during the signing of the register. And our Save the Date video was a mock film trailer starring Seth Rogen as Doug and Cameron Diaz as me, because in those days I was a lot younger and a bit fresher and fancied myself as a bit of a Cameron Diaz, not look-alike, but, be alike. Suffice it to say, both Cameron and I have sort of diverged on separate paths subsequently, but
Well,
so,
she's famously not acting at the moment.
Well, neither am I, Jeremy. Neither am I. So, Anyway, April 2016, and here we are.
I mean, I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast before, but I'll share it again. So I remember, I'll never ever forget, it was January 2015, and I was in the midst of my teacher training. I was staying at the Auckland University halls. I had a migraine, so I had got back from that day's worth of maybe teaching or learning. I think we were looking after young people at the University Epsom campus.
Sounds safe.
Yeah, and
you were not of right mind.
Yeah. And so I went to bed, crashed out, and we were supposed to have this meet and greet with the year before us, the 2014 cohort, and I missed all that. And anyone who knows me knows I'm a people person. I love those spaces, but I just didn't have the capacity. And so I woke up from my nap. My migraine had thankfully broken, and went downstairs to join the dinner line, and I was standing next to this person called Sarah, and we started talking, and our talking about movies finished, was it 2.5 hours later?
Probably. I mean, what a meet cute, right? Yeah. We're like the Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney of the... But without all that hot and heavy sex.
Yeah, just hot and heavy conversations about cinema.
That's right.
And I remember we had to move our conversation, or we maybe ate dinner or something. We were outside.
Yeah, because everyone was probably quite annoyed.
Everybody left. I think we had people around us, and then they were all gone. It was just the two of us sitting outside still chatting. And I remember you said to me, you're like, I usually don't talk about movies with people this long. It's usually a... let's agree to disagree moment.
Yeah. Or a what's your top 5, and then and then move on, because
And then I don't think we really saw each other until the quarterly catch-ups for our teacher training at University of Auckland, and we sort of managed to snatch a small chat in lunch and morning tea.
So by some miracle, Jeremy said, look, I'm thinking of doing this podcast about film. I already have a couple of other fellas lined up. There was Max Tarrant, who was in your cohort.
No.
Oh,
He's in my
in
cohort.
William's
Yeah.
cohort.
So
and
you're
there's-
skipping forward because there's another
Oh.
piece of the puzzle, which is a year later. So January 2016. I am now
I get
the
you.
Sarah.
Sorry.
I am now the Sarah
Yes,
of
yes.
this story because
Yeah.
I come in, battle worn and scarred and with a bit of swag that I've got so much experience in teaching, having 1 year under my belt. Which I think there is an element of that when you see your older siblings kind of come in from the storm. But I don't know if we stood in the line together, but I definitely remember
I think
similar chats
I was
with
talking
you.
to you because of your video logs. You had been
yes.
recording, what was that, monthly or weekly video logs about your experience teaching?
Fortnightly.
Fortnight. Wow.
Maybe that's interesting. I've forgotten I did those. And so for this teacher training program, I got asked if I wanted to do a video log about my experiences.
You mean a vlog?
A vlog.
Oh, I've heard of those.
And so I had actually this is a precursor for why I'm been such a stickler for keeping on it because teaching is full on. Learning to teach is full on, and doing it all together is full on. And so doing a video blog at the same time, I don't know how I did it, but I remember every 2 weeks I had to deliver something that was interesting, relevant to my experience, and relatively diverse to what I'd done before. And so I had to come up with content every 2 weeks. And the regularity is what forced me to do it. It forced me to make it happen. I think if I didn't have that 2 week deadline, it just would have died.
Sure.
Wow. So, sorry, Karen, so we were talking about video
Yeah.
logs.
So I think that's how you and I got to start talking, and Max and I were just bonding in our cohort over movies because he loves movies, as did I, or do I. And then it just happened that we all got together and thought, let's talk about movies forever.
Well, I just was like, I would love to bring you two together with Sarah.
Yeah.
And then I thought, let's just record it and release it. I'm sure other people who love movies will be interested. And then the question mark was, what's our structure? How are we going to build something around this? I remember you came up with the title, Sarah.
Did I?
You did. You came up with Cinema in Context.
Oh my gosh. I'm stoked with myself because I think it really works.
Yeah.
Oh, well
I should
done me.
have let you commend the title and be like, well, actually, you're just praising yourself.
Wow.
And we I floated the idea, and obviously I gave you guys a couple of months to get into teaching.
Yeah. I think it's really good, interesting and appropriate that we started with 2 New Zealand films. So Mahana, which was the Lee Tamahori film of, I guess it was 2016, must have been. And then Once Were Warriors. I mean, that's a pretty, I don't mean brave, but a pretty gutsy way to kick this off. I mean, partly because New Zealand content, I think it's entirely appropriate to the context in which we were starting, but also, I mean, pretty gutsy, I guess, because if you're hoping to get an international audience, then you tend not to start with your local sort of team of 5 millions films. Once Were Warriors also, of course, is an extraordinary film that did do well worldwide, and but is brutal to revisit. And Mahana was fine. But I think that's really great that we went with that. And then I think, if memory serves, the next month we went straight into Zootopia and discovered probably there that William loves an animated movie.
Yeah, Dystopia with The Lion King.
That's
I
right.
think it's a great pairing. I love that pairing.
Absolutely. So, and I'd never seen The Lion King before that. So, and off we went. So
Hans Zimmer.
That's right.
Yeah, you're a big Hans Zimmer fan.
So,
and then I think the third episode, not that we're going to go through every episode like this, but the third episode was Catfish with Tickled.
Oh yes, again, wonderful documentaries.
David Farrier's film,
right.
and you're a friend of David's.
And his New Zealand filmmaker having this breakthrough, extraordinary documentary about peculiar deceit and disingenuity. And Catfish was a wonderful, slightly older film to pair that with. So yeah.
And you are friends with David. He listened to the podcast, didn't he? Gave us some kind of warm feedback.
Yes, that's right.
And then in that first year, we were put on Radio New Zealand's top 10 New Zealand podcasts about
That's
films.
amazing.
Were there only 10 New Zealand podcasts about film?
I think I wonder if they were scraping the barrel.
I mean, that's nice of them, but well, So yeah.
It's not been a regular fixture for us.
So my dad, may he rest in peace, whenever we'd come home from school and he'd say, how did you do in a test or whatever? And we'd go, I got blah, blah. And he'd go, but how many other people got that? Or how many people were in the class or whatever? So again, you need the context.
Yeah.
Before, So Jeremy, what the heck are we talking about today for our 100th episode?
My original thought, I've been thinking about this 100 episodes for quite a while now.
For 99 months.
Yeah. when we were getting up into the sort of episode 60s and episode 70s, I'm like, man, we're now in the second half of getting close to 100, right? So I was thinking, what could we do? What's something that's significant? And my thinking was, a clip show could be fun, you know? Go back and find bits of the previous episodes. But in all the 100 months, I've not had the effort or the energy or time to go
edit
back
that sort of
to
thing
re-listen.
together. Yeah.
And listen to your own voices. I do listen to some of the episodes.
I listen
every
to
now
some
and
of
again.
them, for sure.
Yeah. But I thought, how about we look at the new films that we've looked at? Because we always pair them with an old film. And through that process, we're generally going to pick a good film, a classic, something that
or something
is
notable
worth,
anyway.
something worth revisiting. But our new films are really just based on the release schedule.
Yeah.
They're based on whether we're really interested. And also, when we do our top films of the end of the year, we often pick things that we haven't done because of the way the release schedule falls.
That's
we might
right.
not have done that film for that month because something more interesting on paper was coming up. So I thought it would be fun to kind of go back and just look at our new films, our current films, pick our top 3.
Yep.
And maybe a wild card. And just talk about it. See how time has treated them.
And it'll be interesting again, because when we do this at the end of every year, and then we go, well, my third and my second and my first, and then we find there's overlap, often between William and me or between William and Jeremy. So
But never between Sarah and Jeremy.
No, dear God. If it
Just roll in
doesn't,
different circles.
if it's not Alien the musical, then I don't know.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
Have they not done Alien?
They've done it as a high school production. That
Yeah,
went
that's
viral.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But okay, well.
So I reckon we'll do our third picks, our
Yeah.
second picks, our wild card,
Yeah.
and then we'll finish with our top picks.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Nice. Who wants to kick us off with their number 3?
Since we're talking about New Zealand films to start as our episode 1, I'll go. So, dear listener, my third pick for kind of an interesting episode that we did throughout the span of 100 episodes is episode 20, when we talked about Taika Waititi's Marvel magnum opus Thor Ragnarok, compared with his prior film, a New Zealand epic, Hunt for the Wilder People.
Interesting.
Nice.
Guys, we apparently just love Taika on this show. We've done every single one of his... Oh, no, not Next Goal Wins, but apart from that, basically every single one of his
Have we?
releases.
Eagle versus Shark.
Oh, I mean, since we started the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did, Jojo Rabbit, we did Thor 4, we did all of Taika's stuff.
Right.
And I was looking through our list, and this kind of gave me that fuzzy, rosy haze of nostalgia. Like, guys, remember a time when the words Taika Waititi and the words Marvel Cinematic Universe could, elicit feelings of joy and of wonder and of, that's gonna be a good movie.
Yeah.
What halcyon days were those?
It was. I love that film. I love that film not just as a film, but exactly what you're describing, the mythos around that. I think to see a new Zealand director emerge after the kind of 90s of your Campions and your Jacksons and your Tamahoris, it was so exciting. And for him to, in the same year, release Hunt for the Wilder People and then Thor Ragnarok, one of the biggest films ever.
Yeah.
And for it to be so joyful, and for him to reinvigorate the Marvel Universe, then we're too far. But, and to see the likes of Kate Blanchett having an absolute blast, to see a swath of really cool actors.
Everyone's having a blast. Like our core duo of Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. They have
Tessa Thompson.
Especially as the brothers.
Yeah.
Like they just look like they're having so much fun throughout the entire thing. Tessa Thompson gets a lot of fun things to do just acting as a drunkard has been. There's also Kyle Urban, who's fantastic. I guess the only guy who gets short thrift is Idris Elba, who kind of doesn't get to do much, but That's all right. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok is just such a good movie, and really coming off the heels of a whole bunch of like Marvel world building stuff, and to have this blast of color and energy, and I'm going to use the word again, joy.
Yeah.
Like it really was something, you know. Nowadays, with the MCU kind of being in the pits and the talk of superhero fatigue, like. Is anyone looking forward to Captain America 4? No. Harrison Ford playing gruff old Harrison Ford again?
No.
Just seems like, you know, the time in the sun has come and gone. But my goodness, 10 years ago, nothing could stop this Marvel machine. And it's so fantastic that we're taking, you know, indie directors like Taika Waititi and thrusting them onto the world stage. And the result being just these amazing, unique projects like this.
Sure.
I think the key piece of that puzzle is it Kevin Feige? What's his name?
Yes, Paul Feig.
Paul Feig.
No, Kevin Feige.
Oh, sorry, Kevin
Feige.
Yep.
And he had such a controlling. Sorry, that sounds very negative. He was managing
A controlling interest, and
he was managing.
no, seriously.
Well, he was managing the stories, right?
Right,
So the whole
right,
thing
yeah.
is this collective piece, and I think that's what broke me with the Marvel was the WandaVision. I've talked about it before. WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2, where Wanda has this incredible journey about grief and not becoming an evil person because of your grief, and her coming out the other side, becoming a stronger, more well-rounded, good person, to then be a full-blown villain in Doctor Strange 2. And I'm going, huh? And then finding out years later that, well, the filmmakers of Doctor Strange 2 never even watched WandaVision. I'm like, well, if you're not going to watch your own stuff, that's so disrespectful to the audience. And talking about disrespect to the audience, I think that's the biggest, my most egregious sin of Thor 4, is that they were having a blast again, but at the expense of the audience. We were not a part of that fun. Whereas I think Thor Ragnarok, we were part of the fun. We were invited in, and the jokes worked.
Do you guys remember Russell Crowe in Thor 4?
Yes, and I remember we discussed this because I loved, I mean, politically incorrect or otherwise, I absolutely loved his Greek restaurateur.
Yeah, he was
thing,
a Greek fish and chips manager.
And he was incredible. And I remember us saying that they had to do it twice. They had to do it kind of the normal way and then that way. And luckily they went with that way. But, you know, but for me, he was the best thing in Thor 4.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have given you tuppence for all the rest
Christian
of it.
Bale, though. I loved
Oh,
Christian
sure.
He
But
was
he
real
was in
good.
his own little movie.
He was in his own little movie.
And, you know, dying in the desert with white lips or whatever. I don't even hardly remember. But
that's an interesting idea. That I found the juxtaposition between his storyline and then him stumbling into the gods arena and kind of that being. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then the film could never quite pull off that razor. I was just flopped all over.
Which
the
I feel
place.
like with Thor 3, somehow they managed to make Kate Blanchett's story feel meaningful, and the destruction of Asgard and, you know, the coming of Ragnarok somehow gel with the Planet Hulk and the Gladiator and Jeff Goldblum being his Jeff Goldblum mist. Like, something about the chemistry just works, and I don't know what it is.
Well, I think there's that underlying storyline of, you know, the Valkyrie character, sort of indigenous disenfranchisement, you know, the kind of trauma of generational wars, and then you've got that whitewashing of the story, you've got the painting over of the roof. Like, there was this underlying, really clever, real-world application that... I don't know if it might have been there in Thor 4, but there was too much silliness above it to really notice.
Yeah.
can I pivot then to my one, which is similarly of a franchise. To be fair, this particular franchise, I feel, started strong, went a bit funny in the middle, and then got better and better and better and better. It has had the same star throughout. His initials are TC. And Mission Impossible Fallout. I was actually a bit surprised when I went back through, you know, under your instruction, Jeremy, to look at these films. And I realized that for a couple of us, Mission Impossible Fallout was our top film of the year. I remember it being absolutely tremendous and being thrilled by how tremendous it was. And it is... I mean, I don't know why I always have to do a disclaimer that says it isn't what it is, because it is. It's the traveling across the world, the multi-set pieces, the extraordinariness of Tom Cruise doing his own stunts, learning to fly a plane, learning to fly a helicopter, learning to ride a motorbike and do all those things, as well as the characterization. Because I remember at the very end of Mission Impossible Fallout, when the wonderful Michelle Monaghan appears, and we all go, what? And Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, goes, what? And there is beautiful chemistry. It is meaningful. It is well written. She is loved by her new husband. You don't have that sense of she's with the wrong guy. It's poignant. It's gripping. My mate Sean Harris is the baddie, and he's about to blow up the entire South Island.
He's such a baddie in that.
He's extraordinary.
You mentioned the South Island. That's in my mind.
And it's not meant to be. It's meant to be.
It's Milford Sound, isn't it?
Sure, but
It's meant to be Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
right?
it's meant to be Kazakhstan, or it is. It's meant to be North Asia, but of course we know where it is because we're from New Zealand.
And that's how we talk.
No, but we all get all excited whenever people come down and film here, don't we?
Yeah.
But it was a tremendous film, and I think, and I will have said this before, my connection with Sean Harris. In the 90s, I wanted to be an actress. I was planning on leaving school and going to drama school. And my lovely aunt, who is now departed, but my lovely aunt in England, videotaped VHS off the telly this extraordinary documentary, BBC documentary, where they followed a bunch of theatre students at the Central School of Speech and Drama. And they follow them through their drama training. And it was absolutely fascinating. And one of the people in it winds up in Titanic. His name is Craig someone. He winds up in Titanic taking a cup of tea to Bernard Hill, may he rest in peace. And one of the other people who's notable winds up on the bill, as in... Anyway, and the other one is Sean Harris. And my word, I have watched his career over the years and felt that pride that you have for someone you've never met, where that you watched them when they were just a young lad in training, and now you're seeing them really holding their own in a Mission Impossible movie, as well as villains and all sorts in other things. So Mission Impossible Fallout I thought was absolutely marvellous. I saw it at least twice in the cinema and several times since, and I'm surprised at myself that kind of came out on top for me, but what a blimmin' great blockbuster that was.
Has part 2 of the other thing come out?
No, they're still filming it, right?
Was part 1 any good?
It was all right.
Yeah, it was all right.
I think part 1 was really screwed over by COVID and, filming conventions.
It wasn't as good as Fallout, but I think also it does have that whole to be continued.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you anything about it. I can't remember anything about it because Fallout sort of...
I think it really came down to how Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise were shooting things, which is stunts first and then plot, right? So for 5 and 6, for Rogue Nation and Fallout, it really works because somehow they structure the plot around these massive set pieces, and it's tight enough for you to believe, and then he goes from here to there.
Yeah.
But with COVID and with where they could and could not film and when they could and could not film, I think the new, what's called Dead Reckoning, part 1, it just doesn't have that energy or that drive, and it feels messy. Whereas Fallout, I guess the set pieces are like top of class, right?
Yeah.
I'll never, ever forget the running across from St. Paul's to the Tate.
Yes.
And he's just sprinting.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a stunt, ostensibly, but it's just a guy, in his late 50s, peak conditions, sprinting from one side of the Thames to the other. And it's the world's most thrilling thing.
Yeah, it is. And of course, it's incredibly shot.
Yeah.
And the locations are incredible. And that's also with him motorbiking through Paris, right?
Oh my goodness.
And that is intense when you watch the behind the scenes and that's flipping Tom on that bike.
He's going around the Arc de Triomphe against the flow of traffic.
Extraordinary. So,
And then Henry Cavill, when he reloads his arms, and he's such a cool antagonist as well.
And the bathroom fight scene. So, many, many, many things. So there we go.
It's cool.
What about you, Jeremy? What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a film that came out in 2022. I saw it. I was excited to see it, but I saw it I think it was with you, William. And it was before the hype had kind of, the hype machine had started off. And that is a little film called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh, how funny. Which I still have not finished.
Oh,
Isn't that terrible?
we went to the cinema,
we did go to Rialto to see it.
And I remember laughing, being enthralled. I remember crying and having this experience that you dream of having in the cinema, where you get completely wrapped up in a film. It touches something profound within your psyche, whilst also just being a blimmin' wonderful character story. So the heart of that movie is a mother and daughter relationship, as well as a relationship with the father/husband, as well as the relationship with the grandfather, as well as a random tax person played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And like it's a very human, simple story about complex emotions, then extrapolated onto this multiverse stage. And I think it was at a time where a lot of multiverse films are coming out, but we hadn't yet got the multiverse fatigue.
Yeah.
With as much as I love the Spider-Man multiverse film, and I've already mentioned Doctor Strange 2, which I think we paired with
this movie.
I was going to say, what did we pair with it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I still am astounded that it went on to win Best Picture, because it feels like such a atypical Best Picture winner. And I'm still stoked that it won 7 Academy Awards. Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress, right?
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis Best Supporting.
Yeah, and she has that wonderful speech where she thanks all of the people making the film. She honours her parents, who both were nominated and never won.
Yeah.
I still think that who's the other co-star in that who plays the villain, the daughter?
Oh, Stephanie Hsu.
Stephanie Hsu. I still think she's more deserving. She does a better job acting, but it's a legacy.
It is a legacy.
Oscar for Jamie Lee Curtis.
And Lee Kwan back after being short round so many years ago.
Yeah,
that's right.
Incredible performance. He won
and
Best
that was
Supporting.
a big deal.
And who was the dad?
James Hong.
James Hong.
Yeah.
Just wonderful. And of course he plays a big villain in the film as well. It's a joyful movie, and I love, love, love when filmmakers have a challenge and they have to think outside the box in terms of special effects, in terms of filming, in terms of budget constraints, and they make beautiful art. And I think about the first Lord of the Rings film, where Peter Jackson and his team had actually a relatively small budget for what they were trying to achieve, and they utilised every trick in the book. I think about the film Gravity, where they had a much bigger budget, but they still had to invent technologies to make this film work. And it's the same with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, the fact that one of the Daniels just filmed walking in the street for about a year, and then they stitched that together for when Michelle Yeoh's character has to get pulled through different multi-dimensions. The use of animation, the use of stop animation, the use of goggly eyes on rocks,
So it's everything all at once.
And I have such a dislike for titles like this, which is nothing everywhere at once. But for that film, they used that title as the 3 chapter headings. It works on so many levels, and I've rewatched that film multiple times, and it's just such a joyful film to watch.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Number 2, who wants to kick in with their number 2 movie?
Can I take it a little foreign? Because, we are not just Hollywood blockbuster people. So, okay, so let's pivot to Iran and Asghar Farhadi, the director of wonderful human dramas in which everybody shouts at each other. And my husband can't cope with all of the shouting. The Salesman. Now, foolishly here, I was going to say foolishly, again, 2016. Sorry, 2016. So The Salesman is an Iranian-French drama. And it's just a straightforward, it's always a straightforward premise. The wife is assaulted. The husband attempts to find out who the attacker is. She struggles with post-traumatic stress. And the husband's kind of like, his mission to avenge this assault has tragic consequences that you could not possibly anticipate. It was just an extraordinary film. It's just yet another Farhadi film, like A Separation and that wonderful one with Marion Cotillard. You can see how unprepared I am here. The one that's set in Paris with Marion Cotillard. And all these films are such relatable, well, I mean, not strictly relatable in this exact premise, but what I mean is such accessible kind of basic human drama could happen to anybody. And Farhadi writes these films, he casts these films with extraordinary actors, and then he ratchets up the tension. And there's nothing artificial or put on about the whole thing. It just happens, and you just find yourself completely breathless by the end of the film. So
do we compare that to La Strada?
We did.
And it was and the connection being it was the first and the most recent Oscar-winning film
For best foreign.
for best foreign
Best
film.
foreign film.
Yeah.
So, and La Strada was an interesting one for me because it's Rossellini or it's Fellini.
No, Fellini. Federico
And I'm
Fellini.
not mad on Fellini, and I will have talked about that a lot during La Strada because I love Italian film and I love Italian stuff, but I don't like crazy shit. And so, if it's all, hey, oh, and it's like, overblown makeup and crazy behavior and all that, I'm not mad on all that. But I'm sure I should re-listen actually to this particular episode just to see how we drew comparisons that weren't just people shouting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the central relationship of La Strada in terms of the making of the film is that he casts his wife, and then of course there is sort of this relationship at the core of that movie. So I'm sure we would have made connections there.
Yeah. So
But,
look,
yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot to say about The Salesman other than I was really pleased to see that I had loved it so much. It's definitely one I would now like to revisit because you revived it in my memory, and I just wanted to prove to listeners and viewers and watchers that we are and readers that of course sometimes we do like to dabble in a little bit of art house fare.
And that would have been one of our earliest episodes with William's artwork. I do want to highlight that.
Oh, right.
Because our first few episodes, we have just a kind of a text-based image that I put
Orange
together.
and white.
Orange and white. And it was Max's girlfriend at the time who suggested that we should have a different piece of artwork for every episode. And that was when, William, you were like, cool, I'll put that together. Or maybe we asked you, I can't remember.
Or maybe we told him.
Yeah, voluntold.
Yeah, that's right.
And the first one was for Great Expectations, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
And Arrival.
And
that's
Arrival,
right.
and it was
Yeah.
a black and white illustrated piece. And then La Strada and The Salesman. I remember the images of a hand holding an Oscar, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I remember that one because the Iranian flag and the Italian flag share the same colours.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
So again, a little bit of behind the scenes for people. So we record this every month at one of our houses, and we're pretty good, I think, about splitting that up relatively equally. We always seem to do it on a Saturday morning, only occasionally of an evening, and you'll know the ones when we've been drinking of an evening, not on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But and then Jeremy, you're the one who takes all the IP home and edits it, but only slightly. Like you don't edit like cutting out ums and ahs, and you only do a slight trim, right? I'm not diminishing the work that you put in. What I mean is I want people to know that what they hear is pretty much what we say.
Yeah.
And then William comes up with an extraordinary piece of artwork that is an amazing kind of juxtaposition or whatever the word is of
A mashup.
A melange.
a melange
melange.
of two ideas, which we invariably go, oh my goodness, that's extraordinary, that's your best yet. And I do absolutely nothing. But I feel as though what I bring to the podcast is the female element. So, that's my
Contribution.
contribution. That's right. Or occasionally I might get you into a free preview.
No, this is true.
So
You
there
do
we
do
are.
this.
Yep,
Right, well,
yep.
I might jump in with my second film, which
Go for it.
is a bit foreign as well.
Oh, a bit foreign. A bit of foreign.
Yeah, and again, I think this film, you both were very excited. I was like, meh, and went along and was like, wow.
All right.
And that is 2019's also Best Picture winner, Parasite,
Oh.
by Bong Joon-ho.
Well, can I just tell you straight
sorry.
off? That's my number one.
Wow.
So we can go home early. Nah,
When you had that preamble, I thought you were going to say Top Gun Maverick.
Wow. Which, I mean, Top Gun was what we talked about with the original Top Gun with Mission Impossible.
That's right,
Fallout.
that's right.
Well, do we want to talk about Parasite now? And,
Do
and
it.
then do
it.
again
Yeah.
later?
No, it's fine. We don't need to talk about it later.
Well, I mean, Parasite, I think, is impressive for a number of reasons. First of all, it is one of the few foreign language films that has won Best Picture.
Yes.
I mean, what else do we have? We've got The Artist, which actually... There's still a lot of English in there, isn't there?
Well, no.
And a lot of
the
nothing.
artist is
It's a
silent.
silent film.
Yeah.
Are there any other sort of foreign language films that have won Best Picture?
Oh,
No.
only more recently. What won last year?
Oh, Roma didn't win, right?
No, Roma didn't. What won last year?
If
Not Triangle of Sadness.
Everything Everywhere was
No,
that last year?
last year, that was last year, but this year was, I looked at it this morning.
So this is an example.
Coda. Oh.
People of when this might get
It wasn't
edited. Well, we do
Coda.
all of our...
Coda was the year before Everything Everywhere All at Once. This year was Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Oppie.
I feel like... Oh, okay. Anatomy of a Fall and a bunch of others, and The Zone of Interest were up for Best
Well, yeah,
Picture.
I mean, you've got your
as
Crouching
well
Tigers,
as-
your Crouching
Got ya.
Tigers, Hidden Dragons, and things. But in terms of winning,
Oh, dude, you're so right. It was a massive big deal for Parasite.
Yeah.
And it won 4 Oscars. So it won Best Director for Bong Joon-ho,
Yeah.
Best Screenplay, Best Foreign Film, and Best Picture.
it's just like an extraordinary film. I think what's great about the movie is that there is this real pace about the first half of the film that's this almost sort of comedy of errors or Tartuffe kind of storyline
Absolutely.
where these lower class individuals are infiltrating this rich family.
Absolutely.
And then there's a turn, and the turn is so wonderful.
Yes.
It's
And gasp-inducing.
You can't. It's like it's one of those movies where you're like, you have to watch this film, and people go, "I'll watch it." It's like, no, you need to watch it, but you can't tell them why they need to
No.
watch it because
Yeah.
to push that point would be to ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
And someone getting a peach rubbed on their face as an act of war is
Yeah.
like just still wonderful.
Yeah. The gripping moments of people who are hiding and who are hearing or watching something happening, and they're hiding, and you're right there under the table with them.
The gripping moments of watching a YouTube tutorial while someone else is coming home and you got to make these noodles as quickly as
that's
possible.
Right.
I mean, someone innocuous and a bit spoiler alert here for Parasite, but someone getting kicked down some stairs.
Yes.
Just the simplicity of that, and then not knowing
Absolutely.
what's happening, and then it's such a wonderful.
But that's the
film.
thing, right? With all its thriller elements, in its heart, it's still a black comedy. Like it's still funny as all the way to the very, very end.
Yeah.
It's just slickly black.
And then I even think about the flooding sequence, which is very kind of.
That's
Francis
early on,
Ford,
right?
Francis Ford Coppola. No, the flooding's near the end.
denouement at the end.
Yeah,
Oh,
when
that-
you're running
okay,
down the,
sorry, yes,
just the
yes.
kind of washing
Yeah.
out of. I just think it's amazing. It's
It is
such an amazing film.
And so you may remember from that episode. So I love to boast that I am married to the wonderful Doug Dillerman. Now, we were at Cannes the year that Parasite came out and was at Cannes. And before it won the Palme d'Or, like a couple of days before, we got to go to the screening at 8:30 in the morning, and it was extraordinary. And the next day, Doug got to interview Bong Joon-ho with an interpreter there. And he wrote a wonderful piece that was published in Filmmaker magazine. And so it's wonderful to feel like, oh, we were already like, that film's really something. And then it won the Palme d'Or, and then, it just kind of totally took off. And it was amazing. And did you know, and you did because I've said this before, but for people who didn't hear it the first time, that it's extraordinary. Bong Joon-ho built the house. He built the set of the house, the modern, lovely one that the rich family lived in. And he built it according to the way that he wanted camera shots to go around corners or upstairs or whatever. Can you imagine? Normally, for any production, you'd think that you would move into a space and you'd go, well, this is what we've got. That's how the corridor goes. So how about we come along here and we go... No, he built it especially for... That blows my mind.
That's what Tarantino does as well. And some of those really famous Tarantino sequences you think of.
Yeah.
It's because he built the set, the House of Blue Leaves, the restaurant in Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
Even the opening apartment of Jungle Julia from Death Proof.
Right.
He builds these spaces for exactly that same thing. And I
Amazing.
love filmmakers that understand the importance of building spaces.
Yeah.
Different to someone like Ridley Scott, who has set pieces, like literally, no, I'm not talking about metaphorical set pieces, literally pieces of set that he moves around and he sort of paints the picture as he goes.
Right.
It's another way of filmmaking. I love to bring up Doug as well, because Doug has been a common guest on our podcast.
It's not that common, but
He's been a few times.
No, I mean common.
All right.
Yeah.
But also, I want to shout out to him, because I feel like we're giving shout outs to people that have contributed pieces to the fabric of what we do.
Yeah.
He was the one that encouraged us to introduce each film with a bit of a summary. We didn't always do that.
Yeah,
and so
that's
it was
right, that's
his input that was like, I think you need to give people a bit of a summary of each movie. And so before we record, I usually go, all right, who's going to do Snowpiercer? Who's going to do Parasite?
Yeah.
William will go, I'll do either one. Sarah will either go, I'll do da-da-da, or I'm not doing da-da-da.
That's right. I don't know what to say about that film.
Don't make me talk about that movie.
Yeah.
And so often I have to jump in. So not only do you not contribute anything
That's
inside,
right.
sometimes you don't even contribute in
During the podcast. I just sit here. That's right, just to bring diversity higher.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyways, but no, that's my number 2, Parasite.
Nice. And I love how we have talked about a couple of Bong Joon-ho movies, Snowpiercer with this, and also Mother, which was a
Mother
fun
and
episode
Mother.
to compare.
That's right.
Yeah, that guy makes good movies, you guys.
Yeah.
And Darren Aronofsky makes wonderful movies, or movies that I hate, like Mother or the Sphere film at Vegas.
Oh,
Stupid movie.
please. Yes.
Anyways.
Okay.
William, what's your number 2?
Sticking with the whole foreign film notion.
Get us, eh?
Let's venture off to the foreign land of Toronto, Canada. Episode 73. I mean, it's not made... Well, actually, it is made by a Canadian filmmaker, even though it's an American company. It's Turning Red. Yes, so, I mean, nowadays, in the year of 2024, what are we? End of July... Inside Out 2 has just become
the highest grossing animation of all time.
Of all time. Which is nuts.
Yeah,
right?
which is great, though, because I thought it was terrific.
More than Mario, more than Frozen 2, which thank goodness, because that movie is a piece of
Does
junk.
that mean more than Frozen 1?
More than Frozen
I
1.
quite like Frozen 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You and I shall have a conversation after the recording.
Yeah.
That was a movie that felt like it was stitched together from the pieces of a much better movie. But yeah, Pixar's back on a roll, baby.
Yeah.
But they were not, definitely, adamantly not so back in the COVID times, right? So I know, Jeremy, you went to see Onward just before everything closed.
Yep, like 2 days before.
Which is, oh man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And it was okay.
Yeah, I like Onward. I like how the movie ends more than how it opens.
I agree, 100%.
But then Pixar releases these weird, really personal, really small-scale movies, Luca and Turning Red, and both of them are amazing. Have you guys seen Luca?
Yes, it's set on the Amalfi Coast or the
Yeah,
Cinque Terre. I
that's
can't
the
remember, but we watched that for that vicarious kind of want to go on holiday thing. It's either that or Under the Tuscan Sun with Diane Lane, which is really terrible. So watch Luca instead.
There's really, both Luca and Turning Red, I think, are really cozy, lived-in movies, which are heavily influenced by the director's childhoods.
Yeah.
Right? And Turning Red, for me, is just this blast of energy. I mean, Jeremy, you and I have raved about this movie many a time. There's just something about it that is, like, I've seen it many times now with different people, and it is a film, not many films in our film list of 100 do this, but it's a film that just brings me joy every time I watch it. Like, from the very beginning, when May introduces her world of Toronto circa 2002, every little detail of this film just pops. The animation, how they're trying to mix it up a bit with a lot of anime stylings and real, like, of the time period things. Everything about this movie, the casting, the music, the whole thing with red pandas, the lore, I think it just works for me on a whole nother level. And it's very, very rare for me to put another film into my list of happy films.
Yeah.
Films that I can just watch and just really vibe out and enjoy. I think a lot of Wes Anderson's works are there. And I fully put Turning Red in my happy films list. It's just, I think out of everything we watched, the film that brings me personally the most joy.
So interestingly, it's a puberty film as well.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't already done it, it would be a nice pair probably with Inside Out
Oh my
too,
gosh,
wouldn't
yeah.
it? So, but
You've
too late.
seen Turning Red.
I haven't.
Okay, so there is a spoiler alert, but for there is a sequence in the film where the main character, she is an illustrator, and she starts drawing pictures of this boy that she is interested in. She's not sure why she's interested in him.
Okay.
He works at a service station, 7-Eleven style store. And so she starts drawing these pictures and she starts accentuating his muscles, I think.
Yeah.
And then she starts to feel something and she's not sure what it is. And so she starts furiously drawing lots of these kind of romantic pictures. And it's the film's unclear about exactly what that emotion is. But some sort of attraction. And the mother finds the book, this very staunch mother, and she thinks the boy's seducing her or something. So she grabs her prepubescent daughter, drags her literally down to the service station, and in front of a whole lot of her peers, slaps one of the drawings onto the thing.
Oh, no.
And scolds this poor young teenage boy who has no idea. And this young girl is turning red.
Yeah.
And I will never forget. What I was feeling. I was laughing in joy because of what the film was doing. I was like, this is an amazing emotional push. My boyfriend at the time, he couldn't have pushed himself further into the couch. The awkwardness with which he felt this, he was like, ah! It was like this visceral reaction. I just loved it. And then I was desperate to know. My sister watched it with her 3 kids, who now are 12, 14 and 17.
Perfect.
They would have been maybe 2 years younger.
Yeah.
Perfect age to watch this film.
Yeah.
And she said it was so much fun watching it with them. They literally were standing up screaming, burying their head into cushions.
Yeah.
I think because we all relate to that.
Yeah.
That time in your life where your social circles become more important than your family or your whatever, your institutional figures of respect. And it does something, and it's so good. And then the ending of that film, how it then offsets that with all of those people coming together to solve the problem. I won't say what it is because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good movie, William. I've forgotten actually about Turning Red, even though I looked at it through the list, and I still wouldn't have picked it. It would be very close to my top 3.
Would be a good film
Wonderful.
to show teenagers
Oh,
at school.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially since there's a lot of thematic resonance and just stuff to write about if you are
But
working on
awesome.
it.
I love what that film as well. Like, it's called Turning Red. It's about a young woman going through puberty. I mean, there's some obvious connections there, right? And I was like, oh, okay, the red panda is...
Is she Asian?
Yes.
Yes. American, Canadian Asian.
She's, Canadian
Yeah.
Chinese.
Canadian
Specifically
Chinese.
Canadian Chinese.
Yeah.
And culture is a massive
Yep.
part of it, eh? And they use the kind of mythos of certain elements of their family culture to become a supernatural element of the film. But the mother literally talks to her about, are you having a period?
Yeah.
Like, so I really like the film for not just making it one allegory.
Yes.
They kind of knocked that on the head earlier on, so that
Yeah.
the Turning Red is more for... It's lots of different things.
Yes,
that
yes.
she's going through. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Nice.
So yeah, Turning Red.
Should we do our wild card? Sarah, jump in with your wild card film.
My wild card. This was an easy one to come up with. Oh my God, I feel like I bang on about this film. Upgrade. You've heard me talk about Upgrade a million times, and I can't... What did we pair Upgrade with?
I don't think we ever did.
You
Upgrade.
brainiacs?
Yeah, I love Upgrade.
Oh, wait,
I don't
what?
think we did an
I've never
episode.
seen it.
So does that mean I'm not allowed to have chosen it?
Did we do Upgrade and Venom? Because that's the
No,
logical
we've never done
conclusion.
Upgrade because I've never seen it and I've done every episode.
Well, how come You've still never seen it?
No.
Jeremy, what are you playing at? No, maybe you know what? I'm so sorry. Maybe it doesn't count for this, but the
No,
reason
but
I will have said it is because it will have come up in the top films thing.
Yeah.
Top films of the year, you know what I mean? Does that still count?
No, but
Oh!
do you want to take it anyway?
I mean, okay, guys, you should
Because
totally
the rule's
see
just a rule that we
Upgrade.
made up before this thing started to give us something to talk about of meaning and integrity and interest to our listeners.
Oh, look, I think Upgrade is of interest. I'm just going to go there.
Cool.
All right?
Just
Okay,
claim
fine.
it. It's a wild card. You can do whatever you like.
That's right,
You're
okay.
1/3 of this company.
I am. So listen, Upgrade. Oh my God. I don't even remember what year because it doesn't matter now because this is a wild card thing. Not that long ago, Lee Whannell, who I think co-wrote some of the Saw movies.
The first
He's
one,
is that right? He's a James
Co-wrote
Wan
and
friend.
co-directed.
And so Lee Whannell, he's Australian, and he made this fantastic film called Upgrade. And the reason I love it is this: the basic premise is that in Upgrade, this dude is in like a terrible car accident. It's vaguely futuristic, and somebody comes to him and says, "I will help you to put your body back together, and it will have mechanics in it, and you will be able to walk and move and everything." And so he's like, what have I got to lose? And so he does. But then it turns out that actually the mechanics, the AI, if you will, within his body have the capacity to not only control what he does, but to upgrade him in an extraordinary way. And there's nothing more exciting for little old Sarah Watt than films like this and Limitless, where somebody pops a pill. Like Bradley, I can watch Limitless as a comfort film. Bradley Cooper popping a pill and suddenly cleaning his flat. And like, oh my God! It is the best best montage you've ever seen. Where there's like
Requiem for a Dream.
there's like
or Mother.
in Limitless, do you remember that scene? There's like 50 Bradley Coopers putting the trash out and doing the dishes. Oh my god! This is the best film of all time. And
Pop a pill and clean the flat.
oh my god, it is so satisfying to watch. You would not believe. Anyhow, so in Upgrade, the thing that's so satisfying to watch is baddies will come at him, and he's just a dude, and it's got that wonderful thing of I love films where the person's like, oh shoot, I'm in trouble here. I'm not sure how I'm going to get out of this, and then some kind of not preternatural, but in this case, kind of AI thing manages his body and makes him do it, and he's like, "Oh shoot, I'm chopping this person, or I just smashed his head through a coffee table, or whatever." And I find that kind of thing really thrilling to watch. So Upgrade's amazing, but the thing is, of course, it's a 4-star movie because, a bit like Limitless, there's stuff about it that doesn't 100% work. It goes through this incredible premise. It executes it so well, no pun intended. Plus, the protagonist, who I'm scandalous here that I can't remember his name, and I should have looked it up, and I apologize. All I know is that he is basically like, he's like a not quite Tom Hardy. He is as good looking as Tom Hardy, but he ain't Tom Hardy. So if somebody wants to look up who the lead...
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, hardly. But honestly, you just have to watch it. I haven't spoiled it for you. But as I say, 4-star film because towards the end you're like, really? Whatever. But you've seen it, eh?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I just love how low budget it is, and they do everything they can with that budget.
And with super camera work as well. Like there's that classic kind of, the protagonist's eye view of things, and the camera
rotates
in front
with
of
the body.
it.
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, that's right.
So Upgrade is super fun, and you should totally watch it.
I'm just so glad that Lee Wannell, is it Wannell?
I don't know.
Okay, because he's now in charge of Universal's so-called Dark Universe reboot, right? Because he did the Invisible Man.
He did the Invisible Man.
Oh, okay.
And now he's doing, Wolfman and Frankenstein, and it's like, what a guy to get to like chair your franchise.
Yeah.
Because that was going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, really, kind of shocked, but a wild card in every way, and you should totally. Jeremy, I can't even believe that you still haven't seen it.
Who's playing Wolfman?
None of that's been announced, right?
Because I just think that's interesting, right? You make something, because they had this big plan with all these like fancy actors. And
everyone taking that weird ass photo together.
And
Tom
like,
Cruise.
Nobody wants to watch that, but like a more broken down version of it is far more interesting.
Can I just say, Upgrade, Logan Marshall Green.
Oh, yes.
And he looks just like a Tom Hardy. Now, the only other person of note...
Prometheus, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only other person of note is Betty Gabriel, who was in Get Out. She is the maid who cries and has that incredible moment in the room where she says to him, "You need to go."
Yeah.
So Betty Gabriel's in it, only a little. Oh, she's a cop. She's cool. The rest of the people in it, not so good. So that'll also be why it was a bit 4 stars, because there's a little bit of acting in it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, oh my god, Upgrade, get in there.
Nice. William, what's your wild card film?
All right, guys. I mean, this is of no surprise to anyone. Episode 48, films to stream on lockdown. And episode 57, mentioned once again, highlights from 2020.
Ooh.
Okay. This is also not a prime episode, so to speak. But guys, out of all the movies that we've done, all the years that we've been doing this, there's one film above all else which just stands out to me as the film of these past 8 years. It's Cats.
Oh, stop it! Honestly, we are hanging on your every dramatic pause.
Cats!
Oh my word.
That film is insane.
Yes.
I will never, ever forgive myself. I saw the poster when I was in Taiwan. No, for not saying it on the big screen. Saw the poster in Taiwan, thought it looked like, words.
Words we have to cut out. As an outside note, the reason why I cut out all the swearing is not because we're reversed to swearing. but I don't know how to mark an episode as explicit. I thought I did, but I still don't. So.
And then, of course, everyone comes out and it's like, this is the movie experience of the summer.
And
or
not
the
in
winter.
a good way.
And people were, getting super drunk or being on substances and having a grand old time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do this because the movie was off our screens and then COVID happened. And so that was that.
Yeah.
But this film is truly, I mean, I don't have to repeat this. It's truly bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre and horny.
Oh my God.
So horny.
The other day I showed my mum a clip of Idris Elba appearing in the nude. Do you guys remember that scene? He plays McCavity, the mystery cat, and Taylor Swift.
Not much of a mystery.
She's like draped over various surfaces, showing her cat boobs.
Yeah.
And then she
Cat boobs.
yes, they are very much cat boobs. And then of course Idris appears, and he's in a trench coat and with a hat.
Oh, I do.
And then he throws open his trench coat like a flasher.
Yeah.
And he's covered head to toe in really short CGI fur. And I remember people online being like, we've always wanted to see Idris naked, but not like this.
No.
Not like this. What decisions were made and the amount of money that was put into this catastrophe. Why?
Catastrophe.
Hey, honorific.
And also, like, the filmmakers, the visual effects artists have come out and said we were put under so much pressure.
Yeah.
And we were not given the time we could because the visual effects got really slammed as well. And then all the actors coming out, like your James Cordens and your Rebel Wilsons, and slamming the visual effects artists like it was their fault. And it's like, it was a dumpster fire.
Apparently, Tom Hooper was asking for, like, live shots of visual effects. Like, they would film something and the dailies is like, yeah, so what's it look like? And the visual effects people were being driven crazy. Which is, I always think it funny because obviously it has an amazing cast and they look like they're having a great time because obviously they were thinking, oh yeah, from Tom Hooper, who directed King's Speech, which
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables, which I think there's a very clear line between in my opinion, the absolute crappiness of Les Mis to the
the live singing.
Oh my,
it's so weird.
Yeah,
I loved it.
In Les Mis or in Cats?
No, I love Les Mis.
Because in Cats they do live singing as well.
Yeah,
and it's like you've got all the CGI and yet they're live singing. It's like the worst of all worlds.
the sound doesn't work, like none of it works, and it just becomes this fever dream of epic potential and proportions.
And then you've got the best moment of the show and of the film is still very weird with you've got Jennifer Hudson singing Memory, and she is just a powerhouse of a performer, but her face is sort of slightly floating on her cat body, ruining what she's doing. It's weird. And then it's so clearly like the ensemble are there, and then they just fly in these named actors, and then there's a plot device where those characters get taken out of the film to this other location, and you're just like, this is terrible. This is so bad.
There's also other things to point out. There's the little mouse children, which will haunt my nightmares from here.
Do they get eaten?
No, it's the cockroach ladies that get eaten.
Yeah.
Yes, and it is
Cinderella.
Oh my God!
Who's in it?
Can't do anything about it.
And then the other thing is that they have this plot device with the main character. Is it Victoria?
Yeah.
So that all of the characters are singing to Victoria, right, rather than the audience. And I thought, okay, cool, I can get on board with this. And then at the end, Judi Dench breaks the fourth wall and sings to the camera, and I'm like, why?
For literally 3 minutes.
Yeah.
She's just
Cat is not a dog.
So anyway, Cats, ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive.
What a time
Why are
to
you
be
bringing this
alive.
up?
Because this is wild card.
Yeah, it is more so than any other film, the film. I'm just going to say.
The film to avoid.
The film of all time. The film of all time.
What I will say is, you mentioned that we talked about this movie as part of our films to watch during lockdown, and that's an example of what you alluded to before, Sarah, which is how we have just made this. We've made this podcast happen regularly, no matter what. And I think about that time. I think about we had about 3 or 4 episodes we had to record during that season. I think about the time where all of us were overseas during 1 month, and so we stitched together that Toy Story 4
Oh yeah, that was heaps of fun.
episode where you recorded with in a noisy cafe, and I recorded at a teacher's retreat with an international Australian teacher. I talked with her. And
We
we've
did the
also
White
had-
Lotus. We took one episode to do the White Lotus, which was TV viewing, because I said it was amazing.
We also took. Oh, this is before COVID, but our other TV show, of course, was the amazing 7-way discussion of the
Game of
Thrones
Thrones, which I
finale.
opted out of because I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
But I mean, I guess in terms of making it happen, no matter
Oh,
what.
gosh,
I
yes.
mean,
Yeah.
we've also got the time where we were all prepped to do a conversation with your friend, Dan, who's
Yes.
a good friend of the podcast, and I got COVID.
Yes.
And so then we had to pivot, and I couldn't see the
And Dan had
films.
come all the way from Bahrain to do that with us. And so
Yeah.
he and I sat in my lounge around my laptop talking to you.
because I couldn't see the films right, so we had to change it, and that's where
We
the
did,
films that made us kind of came from.
That's right.
So it's interesting to think back how things have kind of emerged from that experience.
That's right.
Yeah. So my wild card film, and we've done lots of really cool films that wouldn't necessarily make it to my top 3, so I had quite a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
But I sort of thought about this. I was like, what's a movie that has stood the test of time in a surprising way for me? And I'm going to go with and I'm going to go on it with an animated film, just take a leaf out of your book, William. The 2021 film Encanto, which is the Disney animated
Lovely.
film. Music by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And we've done a couple of Lin-Manuel Miranda films, so I could have chosen
In the
Hamilton,
Heights.
In the Heights film adaptation, or the Hamilton broadcast of the 2016 production. But Encanto, which arguably has less memorable music than those two texts, is such a wonderful film. I rewatched it with some friends in Melbourne last year. Neither of them had seen it.
Is it the one with the little girl in the house and the house is breaking?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
Her family all are blessed with a gift.
That's right, and she doesn't know what her gift is.
Well, she doesn't have a gift.
Oh.
That's the thing. And I think in any other Disney animated film, she would get a gift by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But that's not the story that this film is trying to tell. It's trying to tell a story about, narratives of familial exceptionalism, the way that we mythologize our own grandparents' or great-grandparents' journeys. And at the heart of this is a story of a young woman her biggest hero is her grandmother, but she ends up deeply at conflict with her grandmother. She uncovers this uncle that nobody talks about, and how he's been removed from the family.
We don't talk about him.
We don't talk about Bruno. And I guess in watching it, and I'm watching it as a gay man, I rewatched it with some queer friends who'd never seen it. It's not about queerness, but there is a definite connection there around being ostracized from your family, or feeling like your narrative doesn't fit into what is deemed success by your family. So there's a lot of really interesting storylines here, but it's ultimately about family, forgiveness of your elders, which is a very bold idea to kind of introduce. And, despite it being not as good musically as in The Heights or Hamilton, there's some wonderful wonderful music in here, songs. It blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think 3 of the songs blew up on TikTok.
It was also just beautiful animation, wasn't it? I mean, I don't mean it didn't need to have music, but it didn't need to have music to still be a wonderful film in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, with everything you say, the themes and the story and the characterization and the look of it and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, of the Disney animated films of the last 15 years, I think Encanto is up there, in my mind, is one of the best. I won't say the best, because I still love Moana. But it's, it's doing stuff that's very different to how stories have been told in Disney films in the past.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Nice.
Encanto is
very,
my
very
pick.
nice.
Nice.
All right, should we go to our number 1 films? Do you want to say some words on Parasite? I feel like I've stolen your thunder a little bit.
No, not at all. Please don't. And if I can be perfectly honest, another part of me breaking the rules here is I did have another film. So I kind of had 4 films.
Well,
so why
talk
don't
about
I
your
just...
other film, and then
Yeah. Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay,
now
so...
you're over-contributing, so you're offsetting.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know what I
over.
mean? Like, it's-
Well, that's basically what happens, right? I get to speak for half the podcast. You guys
That's
get
true.
a quarter each.
Yeah.
So basically, tomorrow night I'm very excited because I'm going to be going to the movies to see A Quiet Place Day 1. I remember when A Quiet Place came out. And that was most definitely one of my toppest films of the last 100 episodes. Far out John Krasinski. Like, I love your wife, Emily Blunt, and I think she's Christmas. I love the fact that the two of you work together so beautifully. But I have to say, I'm so impressed with that young lad from The Office, albeit the wrong Office, the American one. I'm joking. But I'm so impressed with his ability to create and direct and star in and kill himself off in A Quiet Place, the first one. What an incredible film. And I was thinking about it this morning. You know, I have always said, and regular listeners of this podcast will have heard me say this a trillion times, for me, one of the best horror films of all time is A Nightmare on Elm Street, because it is so universal, because we all have to go to sleep whether we like it or not. And if you make that the essence of the peril, then I just think that that's utter genius. Similarly, A Quiet Place, we all make noise. Even if we are mute or deaf mute, our physicality makes noise. To have a baddie, such a horrifically frightening alien baddie, that will get you if you make the smallest sound, I just think is absolute genius. And so I thought that everything about the construction of A Quiet Place was extraordinary. The performances, the braveness of getting rid of certain characters, the trajectory, the pregnancy, the birth, and the monsters themselves. Monsters. It just doesn't give it credit. It just doesn't do enough. And I'm so excited to find out how did this all come about. You know what I mean? And then actually the fact that we had A Quiet Place and we're all left thinking, oh, I wonder how that came about. But it was enough. The film was enough. You didn't need to know, because it threw you right in there and went, here's the situation. We're already in it. Life is peril. And then they did the second one with Cillian Murphy, and that too was excellent. And they still hadn't told us exactly what had happened, and it was okay, because it was still ongoing peril, fabulous. I mean, the chemistry, the screen chemistry, not romantic chemistry, between Cillian and Emily, amazing. And then you fast forward to Oppenheimer. But anyway,
true. I forgot about it. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or what about, a toddler, trying to keep a toddler quiet, and of course
absolutely,
you can't, because that toddler goes very quickly. Or giving birth to a baby.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's
in the
amazing.
bath. Amazing, because every single person watching,
so tense.
You don't need to have had a kid or been pregnant to go, oh, this is going to be difficult.
It's like her keeping quiet,
yeah,
and then the baby keeping quiet.
Absolutely.
That's just been born.
I know.
And isn't the monster like leering over her as she's in she's having contractions?
I think it's just outside the bathroom door or something. But I mean,
so
it's sufficiently close given how acute their hearing is.
Yeah.
You know, amazing.
Yeah.
So that's really all I have to say about Quiet Place. Blimmin' good on him. Now, what I don't know is who's made number 3.
It's Michael Sarnowski, director of Pig.
Oh,
which is so good.
That's very clever then. Okay, Pig was a great film.
I'm just not, as you know this, I've said this before, I'm just... Prequels. You say, I want to know how it'll happen.
I love prequels.
I like it to be revealed as part of the ongoing story.
Oh, no, I don't want no flashbacks.
No, not that. Like, there is plot points that reveal, people tell stories about this.
Oh, I don't want people telling stories. I remember in my day, there was aliens come down, and they had supersonic hearing.
Not even that. It's, my mother once told me.
I don't care. Show me, don't tell me.
Okay, I don't mind a prequel if there's something to be... If the story is going to give us something different that adds something new to the kind of world. If it's just telling us how we got from point A to point B, forget about it. But I love A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place, wonderful.
Okay.
Shall I say mine?
Yeah, go.
All right, so my film of the last 8 years that we have focused on is from, it's not going to come as any surprise to either of you, it's this 2018 film that should have won Best Picture, and that is Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born.
Oh, that's nice.
Starring Stephanie Germanotta, aka
yes.
Lady Gaga, who I am a huge fan of, and she's told me that she loves me through my flatmate, but, you know,
Really?
she doesn't know my name, but my flatmate said, my flatmate Jeremy loves you, and she says, oh, tell him I love him.
Oh my
so,
God.
effectively, Lady Gaga's told me that she loves me.
Wow.
But A Star is Born, I've seen, the 2 versions of the film that are called A Star is Born before this. There is an original version called something else. Oh no, the original's called A Star Is Born as well,
Yeah,
isn't it?
the Streisand one?
No.
Oh, the way back
Way back one.
Okay.
I think, is it called A Star Is Born?
Yeah, maybe.
The non-musical one. Anyways, I've seen the Judy Garland one. I've seen the Streisand one. And I was very interested to see what Bradley Cooper would do with this. I think what is worth saying, and we've said it before, is Bradley Cooper is a wonderful director.
Yes.
He has such a confidence of vision and tone, and that movie, villainous music managers aside, there's such a confidence in that film with what it's trying to do. The romance between their two characters is so clearly developed and palpable. They don't have sex until halfway through or later in the film. We believe their love before that moment, and so often in films I get frustrated that sex gets used as a shorthand.
Yeah. His relationship with his brother?
His
Is it
relationship
Sam
with
Shepard?
his brother.
Who's his brother? I can't remember that.
Sam Shepard.
The actor. It's the old fellow.
Yeah, Sam
Elliott?
Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
Like this. And so does Bradley Cooper. He kind of puts on that growl.
Yeah.
I mean, the song Shallow.
Yeah.
Another thing is, so often movies, about musicians have like their hit song, and as an audience member you have to suspend disbelief because the song, it's pretty average.
And
yet Shallow became a huge real hit.
Yeah.
It's the only Oscar the film won.
Yeah. Which is a scandal. Well, to my mind, it's a scandal because I can't even remember. Don't bother telling me what it was up. Oh, for crying out loud!
Book won. And Roma lost as well.
Yeah, Roma should have won.
But there was so much about Star Is Born that was Oscar worthy.
Yeah, did she get nominated for Best Actress?
Yes.
She did, yeah. She missed out on the nomination for the one where she talked like this.
Yes.
What was that a film?
It was about Gucci.
Gucci, House of Gucci.
See.
But yeah, she got nominated for that, I think rightfully so. He got nominated for actor, not director.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was nominated for Maestro either.
No, I feel for Bradley. I really feel for my friend Bradley. I think he's excellent, and I agree with you. I do think he's I think he's a wonderful director. I think he's a wonderful performer.
Yeah.
And I really felt sad for him about Maestro. That felt like a real snub on many, many, many levels. Carrie, right? Carrie Mulligan was nominated for Best Actress.
Was wonderful.
And of course wasn't going to win that, but
she did. I mean, I love Emma Stone in Poor Things.
Yeah.
Whole lot of fun, and take your Oscar, you deserve it. But actually, I do think if you're going to judge those performances, I think Carey Mulligan's performance in
it's way more subtle and way clear. Yeah,
incredible,
absolutely
incredible, and to capture different age groups, age stages, to capture that. It's so real, and I've been through that, seeing someone pass away from the horrors of cancer. Like she just, it was just astounding. But yeah, so Star Is Born is mine. I think the first like 20 minutes, half an hour is just so good. Like, the build and the music and the soundtrack is amazing. I still listen to that soundtrack. Yeah, A Star Is Born.
Great.
Very nice.
What's your number one, William?
My number one, I mean, you guys have all brought up movies that you really, really enjoy. And that you rank as your number one. I think I went another direction. I was thinking about kind of the whole notion of our podcast, cinema in context. And we often talk about how we watch movies, right? And what context, literally, do we...
And you only watch them on aeroplanes.
Yes, exclusively so.
Especially if it's your Dunes or your Apocalypse Now.
Nolan movies exclusively on the small screen.
Where the sound's really good in those pokey little headphones.
Gravity on a plane.
We can feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, that said... no, actually, the film I picked was really one where it brings me back to a time not so long ago when I think all of our lives were under very, very different circumstances, right? Which was during the COVID lockdowns. And how very, very quickly everything about what we understood about the world changed, right? That includes going to the movies. And so, my film was Tenet.
Oh my god, I was going to joke Tenet.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't think Tenet's great. I mean, it's perfectly entertaining as a film. It's not one of Nolan's best. But I will never, ever... Oh, really? Yeah. Dark Knight Rises? Hello.
I like that.
Oh, gosh, that is a bad movie.
Oh, wait, that's the Tom Hardy one.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's the one with Marion Cotillard. But anyway, gosh, like, I will never, ever forget kind of the hype, the build up,
Yeah.
and then going to actually see the movie. This is after it was the vaccine, and then you got the
that's
booster.
right. Yeah,
everyone
that's
was masked
right.
up with N95s.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because in the film everyone's masked up as
Yep,
well, so you're
yep.
kind of cosplaying.
Yeah,
And my
that's
glasses were
right.
fogging up.
Yeah.
Like everything about that experience will forever be burned into my psyche. And yeah, like I know Nolan was pushing for it to, revive the cinema. In retrospect, maybe he shouldn't have, because maybe it actually killed people who went to the movies and got quite sick.
Yeah.
But my goodness, like that was a very, very different time in our lives, not that very long ago.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to pop that on my list to rewatch.
going-
Seriously.
I think going to the movies actually meant something very, very different. And I remember sitting in a half-crowded theater. Everyone was, had the buffer seat beside them. I was with my
That's
family.
right. I forgot all this.
And it was
Yeah.
just, it was like we were living in the Twilight Zone, watching a Nolan film, and then just not understanding what it was about after the movie finished.
Yeah.
I think I turned to my brother Edward and was like, did you, like, what?
What just happened?
Temporal pincer movement? But why? Why?
No, and what frustrates me about that movie is that there's this really cool idea at the center of it, literally, because the coolest part is that fight with himself in the center of the movie. But then also there's this really simple, stupid story about an abusive relationship, and he's trying to get her out of it. And I just was like, ugh, Kenneth Branagh's character is awful in that movie. And not even, he's literally awful.
Yeah.
But also just, what a crappy character.
And also the sound. I mean, everyone talks about the sound.
We couldn't hear what was going on.
They're on the catamaran, and everyone sounds like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, Tenet is, I think it's fine as a film. It's obviously very, very big budget, and it's cool to see Nolan just shoot practically. I think that's always the draw of his movies, right?
Yeah.
But man, like what a weird slice in time. I mean, literally, since the movie is about time, that movie was. And, maybe we'll never return to a time like that. Who knows? Who knows, right?
It's interesting you talk about these movies that define a time, specifically COVID time.
It's almost as if it was in context.
Yeah, no, well, that's what we said, right, with the start of this one here. But I forgot about Onward. But you're right, that will always actually. If any time I think of Onward, I think about that experience of watching it before lockdown. My Tenet experience with what you're talking about wasn't Tenet. But it was watching the first Dune film, because we couldn't watch that for a long time. People watched it online. You could, legally, you could watch it through Disney
That's
Plus.
because we were in Auckland, right? And we were shut down, and the rest of the country was watching Dune.
That's right.
And it was so frustrating. And so when I got out of that lockdown...
Oh, that was the year when Warner Brothers were releasing their streaming films and their cinematic films day and date, right?
Yeah. And so I then went to see Dune in the cinema, and I'm so thankful I waited. And then I watched it immediately the week later, because I just loved it so much. And I think Dune 2 was another film that was going to be on my list, but it's very likely it'll be on my top films of the year. So I'll just save it for December. Nice. But that first Dune film. And I think to watch something so cinematic, that Denis Villeneuve did something very practical as well. The music was so good. Like Hans Zimmer again, just knocking out of the park. The performances and producing this story that had been such a flop in so many other attempts. I loved that experience. And Tenet, for me, I have such an anger towards that movie because I wanted it to be much better. Right. It still frustrates me that the film opens with this nonsensical opera sequence that I was like, oh, this will be the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not.
It is bookending. Because
kind of. There's a little bit, but I remember, as you say, Jeremy, watching it, it's like, oh, shucks. This is it, right? It's Tenet. It's a
palindrome.
Palindrome, yes. Yeah. This is going to be the sequence. Oh, gotta pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
And it never comes back.
Yeah,
really.
And then I had to say one of my proudest moments in life, listeners, was at the end of that film saying to my brother and again my then boyfriend, right, let's go, and then walking out of the cinema backwards for their kind of entertainment.
Amusement.
And all the rows behind all cracked up laughing. I was like, thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure
my work here is done.
I'm sure every kind of class clown around the world has made that joke.
That's funny. What did we compare Tenet to?
With Memento.
Oh, well, now
another
there's a
timey-wimey movie.
And I think Nolan doing amazing things on, again, we've mentioned this twice already, a small budget and making it work. You know? Yeah. Nice. Hey, well, any final thoughts, team, in regards to our 100th episode? Maybe what are we looking forward to in the future?
Can I look the opposite direction, which is looking back?
Yeah,
I mean,
go.
when you brought up the 100 episodes, I was really excited to talk about the movies that we had compared these with. Because I think, Sarah, Jeremy, one of the best things about this podcast and recording with you guys is actually discovering things I've never, ever seen before.
Yeah, true.
Like, without cinema and context, I would never have watched Repulsion. Waiting for Guffman, which you guys were just so keen on, and
did
I
we
had
watch it
so much
together?
fun. We
In
watched
my
it
house?
together,
With wine?
Yep.
Yeah.
With wine. Yep.
And the film that is probably surpasses Cats in my mind of the movie that struck me as the most interesting and the most out there, which is Barbarella. You know,
Yeah, you still talk about Barbarella.
the theme song, Barbarella's psychedella, really makes a fella wanna tell her.
I don't even
I don't even remember. It's funny what we recall, isn't it?
But yeah, like I really appreciate, not rediscovering but discovering these movies with you guys.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And it's been warm and funny, and just talking about it afterwards is fantastic. So thank you.
Nice.
Oh,
I guess
that's lovely.
My final thoughts is around some of the pairings we've done, and I think about we did My Big Fat Greek Wedding with Crazy Rich Asians as sort of culture clash wedding films. I really like that connection. But my favorite is still to this day, and it's you made it, Sarah, which was when we wanted to do Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson film. And you're like, let's do it with Battle Royale as social satire films set on an island off Japan, which I still think is such a brilliant pairing. And so I really enjoy when we've found those connections that sometimes seem a bit out the gate, but we always
manage to find them. I like when we did Triangle of Sadness and Triangle. Because I had not seen Triangle, but that was so rewarding, super rewarding. And Mother and Mother, I think, is hilarious.
Yeah.
But there was still, this is the motto, this is the moral of the story, guys, right? If you look hard enough, you will always find connections.
I think my favorite has to be Godzilla v Kong and Kramer v Kramer.
That's so funny. You're so right.
One of my favorite pieces of artwork we've done. You took the poster of Kramer vs. Kramer with Meryl Streep and not Al Pacino,
Dustin
Hoffman, and the boy, and you put it with Kong and Kramer and the boy. Kong and
Godzilla.
Yeah. What's your final thoughts, Sarah? What do you want to say?
Well, I feel as sentimental as William does, but I hadn't thought about it quite like that. But I too am very grateful to have been forced, in inverted commas, to see films that I might not have seen, or to revisit films and to analyze them in a way. Like a lot of the stuff that we look at is from the olden days, right? And we'll go, well, I first saw this when I was 9 or 13 or whatever. And I wasn't analytical in those days. It was all just like, it's my feeling about a film. So it is actually sometimes really rewarding to go back and really analyze it and either appreciate it or realize that you've been an idiot your entire life for loving this particular film. So, but one thing I would like to say, my life is very busy, and all three of our lives are exceptionally busy. We are very, very active relaxers and productive people. And my life is very busy. And so quite often I will think, oh God, I've got to watch this particular film before the podcast. I am not assiduous in writing notes in the way, particularly that William is, who writes screeds of notes beforehand. I don't do that at all. I'm very much just like make it up as I go along. But sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed in advance for the work that has to happen to come along to this. Every single time, without exception, I have an absolute blast for the couple hours that we do this, and I leave on a complete high. Sometimes maybe tired, but emotionally really thrilled. And so I guess I want to say thank you so much to the both of you. I can't imagine another 8 years, what our lives will be like in 8 years. And it's not in my psychological makeup to be able to project into that kind of future. And it boggles my mind.
There might be another Avatar film in 8 years.
Another Avatar film. Can we? Oh, I'm washing my hair that day. So find a friend to fill in. So yeah, it's always just, but it all, you're right, Jeremy, when you say that when we first met and I said, gosh, I don't normally have really long conversations about film with anybody. I don't know if it's fatigue. I don't know. I don't think it's arrogance. It's not like I'm not interested in what other people think, but I don't have the energy or the impetus to instigate random chats with people about films. And people will go, oh, what have you seen lately that's good? And I'm like, I can't even remember. I have wiped that. I've filed that review. I've wiped that disc clean. So to come here and do this is so rewarding. And I love it. And I love sparking off of you two. I love the fact that we can disagree and that we can chops and change over one another. So yeah, what a delight this is. And as I say, you're invited to my next wedding, or my vows renewal, or my next big birthday party, or whatever.
Well, it's really interesting you say that, Abe, and I think about the not being able to talk about things for very long with people. And I think it's a testament to how each of us walk in the world. We have a depth of knowledge about cinema, and we all have our own niche kind of areas, but there's actually film cinephiles, there's not too many of us around to the degree that I think the three of us can kind of mine our depths of whatever. I'm struggling to find a metaphor
experience
here.
And knowledge, or kind of
but also we've got enough I don't know, generosity to be okay with disagreement, because we often disagree. There's not many things we agree on, and we used to do for our end of year films, I would sort of combine them and figure out our top film of the year, but it's very rarely happens. So but I think it's a testament to the way that we all kind of walk in the world. And the only other thing that really connects us beyond our love of musical theatre is teaching. That's been a big kind of connection, and we've kind of gone in and out of the classroom and done different things, and but it's been a joy. All right, should we wrap up there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema in Context. If you enjoy our podcast, then hey, share it with your film-loving friends. I actually think this is a great entry episode as well. If you've never really listened to Cinema in Context before, you won't get the structure of it, but at least you'll get a sense of our personalities, our likes, our interests. You can listen to Cinema in Context on SoundCloud, Spotify, Radio Public, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, which are great places to let us know what you think of this episode, as well as give us suggestions for future films to discuss and compare. Look out for our next episode in a month's time, and until then,
no more am I.